She worked quietly in the motor pool, fixing engines while cocky mechanics made jokes about the girl who didn't belong. They never asked why her hands moved with surgical precision or why she could diagnose problems they couldn't even identify. Until a 4-star general walked in, saw the Phoenix tattoo on her wrist, and his face went white. Because Alexis Rivera wasn't just a mechanic. Welcome to Secrets Never Told. Before we continue with this powerful story, tell us in the comments which city you're watching from. And if you enjoy stories about hidden strength and unexpected recognition, subscribe for more content that reveals the power of those who stand in silence. The morning sun cast long shadows across Fort Carson's motor pool as Alexis Rivera pulled on her grease-stained coveralls for another day of routine maintenance. At 32, she had perfected the art of being unremarkable. Average height, dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, hands that seemed to always carry traces of motor oil, no matter how thoroughly she scrubbed them. The only distinguishing feature was a small tattoo on her inner wrist, usually hidden beneath her sleeves. "Morning, grease monkey," called out Sergeant Mike Kowalski as he strutted past her workstation. At 28, Kowalski carried himself with the swagger of someone who believed his 3 years of military experience made him an expert on everything. "Try not to break anything today?" Alexis didn't look up from the Humvee engine she was examining. "Morning, Sergeant," she replied in the same even tone she'd used every day for the past 8 months. Her voice gave away nothing. No irritation, no hurt, just professional acknowledgement. The motor pool buzzed with the usual morning activity, mechanics wheeling tool carts, the hiss of pneumatic lifts, and the constant background noise of diesel engines being tested. Alexis had learned to navigate this testosterone-heavy environment by becoming invisible. She arrived early, stayed late, and consistently turned in flawless work while drawing as little attention as possible. "Hey, Rivera," called Corporal Danny Torres from across the bay. "Think you can handle a transmission rebuild on that deuce and a half? Or should we get one of the real mechanics on it?" The question was designed to get a rise out of her, to provoke some response they could mock. Instead, Alexis simply nodded. "I'll take a look at it after I finish this diagnostic." What Torres and the others didn't know was that Alexis could rebuild that transmission blindfolded. She'd worked on far more complex systems under much worse conditions, in sandstorms, under enemy fire, with nothing but a basic toolkit and the lives of her squad depending on her expertise. But that was another life, one that officially never existed. As she worked, her hands moved with unconscious precision. Every motion was economical, purposeful. She didn't consult manuals or hesitate over procedures. Years of experience guided her fingers as they traced electrical systems and identified problems that had stumped other mechanics for days. "Damn," muttered Specialist Jake Morrison, watching her work from a respectful distance. Unlike the others, Morrison had noticed things, the way she could diagnose engine problems just by listening, how she never made mistakes, never had to redo work, never struggled with procedures that left other mechanics scratching their heads. "What's up, Jake?" asked Kowalski, following Morrison's gaze. "Just watching Rivera work," Morrison replied quietly. "She's good, really good." Kowalski snorted. "She's adequate, nothing special. Hell, my sister could probably do what she does." Morrison didn't argue, but he continued watching. There was something about the way Alexis handled tools, the way she approached problems. It reminded him of the special operations mechanics he'd met during a deployment to Afghanistan, individuals whose skills went far beyond standard military training. By noon, Alexis had not only diagnosed the Humvee's problem, but had also completed preliminary work on the transmission Torres had mentioned. She worked through lunch, a habit that had earned her grudging respect from some quarters and deeper suspicion from others. "Doesn't she ever take a break?" wondered Private First Class Lisa Chen, one of the few other women in the motor pool. "Maybe she's trying to prove something," suggested another mechanic. "You know how it is with women in these jobs, always trying to show they can keep up." If Alexis heard these conversations, she gave no indication. She remained focused on her work, methodically moving through her assigned tasks with the same steady efficiency that had characterized her performance since arriving at Fort Carson. The afternoon brought an unexpected complication. Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Martinez, the base's logistics commander, arrived at the motor pool with an urgent request. A critical helicopter had developed engine problems during routine maintenance, and the specialized repair team wouldn't arrive until the following week. "I need that bird airworthy by 0600 tomorrow," Martinez announced to the assembled mechanics. "It's carrying medical supplies to a forward outpost." The mechanics exchanged uncomfortable glances. Helicopter engines were outside their normal expertise, requiring specialized knowledge and clearance-level access to technical specifications. "Ma'am," ventured Kowalski, "that's really a job for the aviation mechanics. We work ground vehicles. The aviation unit is deployed," Martinez replied curtly. "You're what I've got." That's when Alexis quietly stepped forward. "I can take a look at it, ma'am." Martinez raised an eyebrow. "You have helicopter experience, Rivera?" "Some," Alexis replied, deliberately vague. Kowalski laughed. "Ma'am, with respect, Rivera's good with truck engine, but a helicopter is a completely different animal." Martinez studied Alexis for a moment, noting the quiet confidence in her posture. "Show me what you can do, Rivera." What happened next would be talked about in the motor pool for months. Alexis approached the damaged helicopter with the same methodical precision she brought to every job, but there was something different in her movements. She examined the engine with expert eyes, her hands tracing systems with the familiarity of someone who had worked on similar aircraft many times before. Within minutes, she had identified the problem, a damaged fuel injection system that required careful realignment and replacement of several components. More importantly, she knew exactly how to fix it. "I'll need access to the parts inventory," she told Martinez. "And about 6 hours. The parts are classified," Martinez warned. "This is a specialized military aircraft." "I understand, ma'am." Martinez made a decision that surprised everyone present. "Morrison, escort Rivera to the parts depot. Give her whatever she needs." As Alexis worked on the helicopter, a small crowd gathered to watch. Her hands moved with surgical precision, dismantling complex systems that most mechanics had never seen before. She worked without hesitation, without consulting manuals, as if she had performed this exact procedure countless times. "Jesus," whispered Torres. "Where did she learn to do that?" Morrison was thinking the same thing. The level of expertise Alexis was displaying went far beyond anything taught in standard military technical training. This was the kind of specialized knowledge that came from years of working on classified aircraft systems. 6 hours later, Alexis emerged from beneath the helicopter, wiping her hands on a rag. "It's ready for testing, ma'am." The test flight was flawless. The helicopter performed perfectly, prompting praise from both Martinez and the pilot. As word spread through the base about the impressive repair job, Alexis quietly returned to her regular duties, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. That evening, as the motor pool prepared to close, Morrison approached Alexis at her workstation. "That was impressive work today," he said quietly. "Just doing my job," Alexis replied, beginning to clean her tools. "That wasn't just doing your job," Morrison pressed gently. "That was expert-level work on classified systems. Where did you learn skills like that?" Alexis paused in her cleaning, meeting his eyes directly for the first time. "Previous assignment," she said simply. "What kind of previous assignment teaches helicopter engine repair to a ground vehicle mechanic? The kind that doesn't appear in official records," Alexis replied, her voice carrying a note of finality that discouraged further questions. Morrison nodded slowly, understanding that he had pushed as far as he could, but his curiosity was far from satisfied. He had worked with enough classified personnel to recognize the signs, the casual competence with advanced systems, the deliberate vagueness about background, the way she handled herself with quiet professional confidence that spoke of experiences far beyond routine military service. 3 weeks later, everything changed. Fort Carson was scheduled for an inspection by General Marcus Webb, a 4-star general with a reputation for thoroughness and an eye for detail that made even seasoned officers nervous. The entire base prepared for weeks, ensuring every system was operating at peak efficiency. On the morning of the inspection, Alexis was working on a routine brake repair when the motor pool suddenly fell silent. She looked up to see a small entourage entering the bay. Lieutenant Colonel Martinez, several other officers, and a distinguished man in dress uniform whose chest displayed rows of ribbons that told stories of decades of distinguished service. General Webb moved through the motor pool with practiced efficiency, asking pointed questions about maintenance procedures, parts inventory, and operational readiness. His knowledge was comprehensive, suggesting someone who understood ground vehicle operations from years of hands-on experience. As the inspection progressed, Webb approached Alexis's workstation. She stood at attention, tools still in hand, waiting for his questions. "What are you working on, Specialist?" Webb asked, examining the brake system she had partially disassembled. "Routine brake repair, sir," Alexis replied. "Master cylinder replacement and full system flush." Webb nodded, studying her work setup. Like Morrison before him, he noticed the precision of her work, the organization of her tools, the way she approached the repair with methodical expertise. "How long have you been working on ground vehicles, Rivera?" he asked, reading her name tag. 8 months here at Fort Carson, sir. And before that?" Alexis hesitated almost imperceptibly. "Various assignments, sir." Webb's expression sharpened slightly. In his decades of military service, he had developed a sense for evasive answers, particularly from personnel whose records didn't quite match their apparent capabilities. "Demonstrate the brake bleeding procedure," he ordered. What happened next was routine maintenance performed with such flawless technique that it caught Webb's immediate attention. Alexis moved through the procedure with unconscious competence, her hands following patterns learned through years of experience. But it was when she reached for a specialized tool that everything changed. As she extended her arm, her sleeve pulled back slightly, revealing the small tattoo on her inner wrist. It was subtle, easy to miss unless you knew what to look for. A stylized phoenix rising from flames, rendered in dark ink that had faded with time. General Webb froze, his face drained of color as recognition dawned in his eyes. He stared at the tattoo, then at Alexis's face, studying her features with new intensity. The busy motor pool suddenly felt silent as personnel noticed the general's strange reaction. "Everyone out," Webb ordered quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. The order created confusion. Martinez looked concerned. Kowalski and Torres exchanged puzzled glances, and Morrison watched with growing curiosity. "Sir," Martinez began. "Now," Webb said, his tone brooking no argument. As personnel filed out of the motor pool, Webb remained focused on Alexis, who stood perfectly still, her expression unreadable. When the last person had exited, leaving only the two of them, Webb did something extraordinary. He stood at rigid attention and rendered a formal salute to a specialist, a stunning reversal of military protocol. "Captain Rivera," he said, using a rank that appeared nowhere in base records. "Phoenix Squadron, Operation Desert Shadow." The carefully constructed facade that Alexis had maintained for 8 months cracked slightly. The quiet mechanic vanished, replaced by something altogether more commanding. Her posture shifted almost imperceptibly, becoming the bearing of an officer accustomed to making life and death decisions. "That name doesn't exist anymore, sir," she replied quietly. "4 years ago, Syrian desert," Webb continued, his voice heavy with memory. "Your squadron extracted my advance team when our position was overrun. 17 hours behind enemy lines, no air support, radio communications compromised." Alexis's expression revealed the first real emotion anyone at Fort Carson had seen, a flash of pain quickly suppressed. "We lost half the squadron that night," she said, her voice hardened by memory, "including our commander, Captain Maria Santos." Webb said solemnly, "I knew her personally, one of the finest officers I ever served with." A moment of silence passed between them, heavy with the weight of shared loss and classified history. "The records show Phoenix Squadron was disbanded after the mission," Webb said. "All personnel transferred to routine assignments or medical discharge." "That was the cover story," Alexis confirmed. "The truth was more complicated." Webb studied her carefully. "Why are you here, Captain? With your expertise, you could have had any assignment in the military." "Because someone betrayed Phoenix Squadron that night," Alexis replied, her voice carrying 3 years of carefully controlled anger. "Someone with access to our mission parameters fed information to enemy forces. I've been tracking communications, following financial records, waiting for the right moment. And you believe the responsible party is here at Fort Carson?" "I know they are, sir. The communication patterns I've identified originate from this base. Someone here has been selling classified information for years. Webb absorbed this information with military efficiency." "Do you have a suspect?" Before Alexis could answer, an explosion rocked the motor pool. The building shuddered, tools falling from workbenches, and emergency alarms began blaring throughout the base. Webb and Alexis looked at each other, years of combat experience leading to the same conclusion. "Timing isn't coincidental," Alexis said grimly. They rushed outside to find chaos. Smoke billowed from the communications building, and gunfire echoed across the compound. Base personnel scrambled to defensive positions as attackers moved with coordinated precision toward critical infrastructure. "This is a professional assault," Webb observed, noting the attackers' tactical movements. "They know exactly where to hit us." Alexis's transformation was complete now. The quiet mechanic was gone, replaced by a special operations officer in full command mode. "Sir, I need access to the armory," she said, already moving toward the nearest building. Webb didn't hesitate. "Whatever you need, Captain." What followed was a masterclass in military leadership. Alexis organized the available personnel with tactical precision, deploying them to defend critical points while coordinating with Webb to establish communication with regional command. As the battle raged, she spotted a figure moving furtively toward the base's main communications array. Sergeant Kowalski, carrying what appeared to be a signal device. "The traitor," she whispered to Webb, pointing out Kowalski's position. "How long have you suspected him?" "Since day one," Alexis replied. "His reaction to my presence, the questions he asked, the way he tried to undermine my credibility. quickly. Classic behavior of someone trying to discredit a potential threat. They moved quickly to intercept Kowalski before he could complete whatever sabotage mission he had planned. The confrontation was swift and decisive. Alexis's special operations training against Kowalski's basic military skills. Within an hour, the attack had been repelled. Kowalski was in custody, and the base was secure. As emergency services worked to contain the damage, Alexis found herself surrounded by personnel who now saw her in an entirely different light. Morrison approached first, shaking his head in amazement. "I knew there was something different about you," he said, "but this I never imagined." Torres and the other mechanics who had mocked her for months now looked at her with expressions ranging from embarrassment to profound respect. "Captain," Webb said formally, "I believe you've completed your mission." Alexis looked around at the base that had been her cover for 8 months, at the people who now knew her true identity. "Yes, sir, I believe I have." As the sun set over Fort Carson, Alexis Rivera, no longer hiding behind the facade of a simple mechanic, stood with General Webb, watching as the last of the cleanup operations concluded. "What happens now?" Webb asked. "Now we make sure this never happens again," Alexis replied. "Phoenix Squadron may be officially disbanded, but there are others who need to be held accountable." Webb nodded. "Consider it done, Captain. Your country owes you a debt that can never be fully repaid." As personnel continued to salute her with newfound respect, Alexis touched the Phoenix tattoo on her wrist. No longer hidden, no longer a secret. Sometimes the most dangerous people were the ones who appeared completely ordinary, and sometimes justice required patience, planning, and the willingness to hide in plain sight until the moment was right to strike. The quiet mechanic who had endured months of condescension and mockery was gone forever. In her place stood Captain Alexis Rivera, Phoenix Squadron, ready to continue the fight that had brought her to Fort Carson in the first place.